We're taking a journey through the decades to help you live out your retirement vision. What to do in your 50s, 60s, and 70s. This is part 2 of our 3-part series. Next. Welcome to Retiring Today. I'm here with Loren, Merkle, and AnnaMarie Morrow. AnnaMarie Morrow is the Director of Medicare at Merkle Retirement Planning, and Loren is a certified financial planner, a retirement income certified professional, and a certified financial fiduciary. So we're taking a journey through the decades. Loren, not the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, but the age that people are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s and the decisions that they want to make. Today, we're focusing on the 60s. We did shoot an episode on what to do in your 50s, whether you want to retire in your 50s or some of the things you should be doing in your 50s to get ready for retirement. You can go to our YouTube page and check out some segments from that show. But today, we're focusing on the 60s because it's the decade of decisions.
Yeah, I love how you coined it the decade of decisions, and that's very apt because when you're in your 60s, this is where you have to start making decisions that you have never had to make before. Primary example, at age 62, you're eligible for Social Security. You've never had to make that decision. Do you take it? Do you not take it? How does that work if you're a married couple? How does that work with your spouse? There's a lot of decisions that come into play during your 60s, and now you have to iron out the wrinkles to make sure you're making the best decisions possible.
What's that other big decision? That's what you specialize in.
And I mean, this is clearly my favorite decade of age, the 60s. Medicare, that's when you want to start thinking about what options you have, whether you're retiring before the age of 65 and need to figure out what insurance is available, or once you turn 65, we have that maze of Medicare, a lot of decisions there to work through also.
Yeah, and people come into the offices, whether they first had a 15-minute retirement checkup call or they're coming in for the first time. Are they a lot of times in their 60s or what's the process like?
Yeah, a lot of times it's late 50s and early 60s is when a lot of people will come in. And I think has to do with pressure. I mean, when you think about your late 50s, early 60s, you could also say that's kind of the time frame of pressure, increased anxiety, because with all of these decisions that you've never had to make before, you're wondering, what should I do with this decision? What should I do with this decision? What's the short-term impact to your overall retirement plan? And the harder question to ask or answer is, what's the long-term implications of all of these decisions you have to make? And a lot of these pressures are external, right? Whether it's legislative changes, it's increasing interest rates, economic environment, or even if you're a married couple, there could be some pressure from the other spouse. Just recently sat down with a couple and the gentleman was thinking about retiring and he had a very specific date. And I'm having this conversation with both of them, and the wife says, no, you are retiring at this date.
Sure.
And then it's I just sit back and watch. Right. Then it's a conversation between the two of them, and you see that unfold live. But what I was really seeing is the pressure and the anxiety on both of them as they're trying to come to this conclusion of what's best for them, what's best for you as you go into this decade of decisions.
And what's great about that specific visit that you're referencing is what's fun to see is when they had that comprehensive retirement plan in place, it actually helped guide the decision to show and give confidence in whether or not he could retire. So that was really fun to see.
That's exactly what I was thinking about too. They don't have to necessarily make that decision in a vacuum together. Mm-hmm. You can say, okay, let's work some of the numbers, let's work some of the needs that we have, and then let the decision kind of play out that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and one of the pressures that they were feeling is life experience. What she was telling him is that we've seen this person pass away, mm-hmm. this person retired, and then 6 months later he passed away. They didn't really get to experience their retirement the way they had envisioned it. And she's saying, we're not going to do that. So you're going to retire now while we can still enjoy our time together, have the retirement that we want to have, and make sure that we're going to be able to live out our retirement vision. So there's that pressure of real life experience and mortality as you age and you see your parents pass away, see siblings pass away, friends, coworkers pass away. That becomes a really real thing that people take into account.
But they still worry about, do I have enough? Right, so that's where again you guys can sit down and you show them. Part of this comprehensive plan you mentioned is showing people a retirement income plan. Here's the money that you're going to take each month, and here's how it's going to last you all the way to 90, 100, whatever age.
Going back to that specific example, that's where he was taking it from, right? She was saying, hey, let's live Let's make sure we have some retirement that we planned on. He's saying, yeah, but do we have enough? Is this the right time? Can we financially afford it? Even though we've sat down many times and we've showed them both what their retirement looks like from a financial standpoint, when it comes time to actually pull the trigger of giving up the W-2s, it becomes really real. And he just wanted validation, verification, more confidence that financially they are ready. And the beautiful part of it, as we revised and re-looked at their retirement plan, at the end of that conversation, they were both, yes, here's our retirement date. We're going to do it for sure. We're going to notify the employer on this date, and it's going to happen.
And they're both feeling pretty good about that. So we talk about the 60s as being the decade of decision. So you, as the person thinking about retirement or retiring, have to make decisions. But I also think about the decade of rules. I mean, just think of what you're entrenched in Medicare. The government sets a lot of the rules that people have to follow.
That's right, and that changes every year. Healthcare literally changes every year. We just recently had new legislation signed into place that will change how drug cards within Medicare will work over the next 8-9 years. So yeah, that's a part of that retirement comprehensive plan, is we take in legislative changes, we see how it interacts with income planning, investment planning, and then that will guide us to the decisions we need to make.
We're going to talk today a lot about Secure Act 2.0 to Loren, and in the 60s, what this new legislation has done has impacted some of the decisions people will make.
Every once in a while, there's some landmark legislation that takes place that really disrupts whatever planning component that it affects. And Secure Act 2.0 is no exception. Over 90 retirement plan provisions within this legislation alone. Highly bipartisan legislation. And I think, as opposed to Secure Act 1.0, the original Secure Act that was passed 3 years ago, this has some really beneficial components that you're going to want to pay attention to so you can implement strategies to take advantage of these new additions to the legislation and really enhance your overall financial plan to prepare yourself for retirement.
So did some of the things we just said about that family, that couple that we met with, did they resonate with you? Maybe one of you want to retire, one of you doesn't. Or maybe if you're not married, you're not sure if this is the right time to retire. Why not talk directly to a retirement planner about it? We've only been chatting for about 8 minutes. What could you talk about in 15 minutes with a retirement planner about your retirement vision, no matter what decade you're in? Here are the details about how to schedule a 15-minute retirement checkup call. We've got a website on the screen, and there's a calendar you can go to and schedule your 15-minute retirement checkup call today. So we promise to get into some of the decisions that you have to make in your 60s next.
Retirement is all about staying active and spending time with loved ones. But you may still wonder if you can have the retirement you've dreamed of. Download our complimentary Retire Your Way toolkit to receive a copy of Loren Merkle's new book, Retire Your Way, and 5 guides that'll help you turn your retirement worries into confidence. Go to retireyourwaytoolkit.com. Don't just dream about retirement. Take action and retire your way.
All right, we're talking about what to do in your 60s, the decade of decisions. Okay, I'll get that right. And Medicare, one of the big things people are thinking about, but sometimes, AnnaMarie, Medicare doesn't have to be the determining factor for when you retire.
That's right. The average age for retirement for men is 65, and a lot of that has to do with Medicare. At that point, you don't need to worry about health insurance because you know that you're Medicare eligible. But what we're seeing more and more is people don't want to necessarily wait until 65. So what are the options out there?
And there are a lot of things to think about. So what we want to do is show you some of the decisions you have to make, but don't get too overwhelmed because there's help. There's help. But it's good to tell people what's coming. If they haven't had to make these decisions yet, it's good for them to be aware of what's coming.
That's right. We're going to play a little game called This or That, but there's no winners or losers. We're all learning together. But this or that, just within the healthcare component of an overall retirement plan, just within healthcare, you have different decisions to make as you face retirement. So this or that. First up, we're going to talk about before age 65. What are my options? What is available out there? And that is where we have the options of COBRA or the open market. COBRA is just is a continuation of the employer plan that you're already on, and you can have that for a minimum of 18 months, you and any family members that you had on this plan. And basically all it means is you take over the payments that your employer was subsidizing on your behalf, so it is more expensive than what you had been paying while you're working. The other option you have is the open market, and this is also known as the Affordable Care Act. It's also known as Obamacare, and these plans are available at healthcare.gov. And there's a number of factors that will determine what you pay for these plans. It's based off of your zip code, your age, and household income. And the reason is because there could be subsidies available to you. There is legislation signed into place where there's a larger than normal subsidy available. So it could be that you could have savings going to the marketplace rather than staying on COBRA. But this is where you want to do that cost analysis. See what type of coverage you expect, but then also where are your savings going to be. Next up for this or that is once you hit age 65. So if you've been on COBRA or the marketplace and you're turning 65, those are no longer qualified plans. So you do need to elect Medicare. And you would be electing Medicare A and B, so that decision is already made for you. However, if you are still working or you have a spouse that is working, age 65 and beyond, then you do have the decision. Do I elect Part A? Do I have to elect Part B? Am I going to get a penalty? And that is where that comprehensive plan can guide you to what would work best and what your cost analysis, where your savings would be as well. Because you do not have to elect A and B at the same time. And an employer plan is considered qualified, Medicare qualified coverage. And then let's say you do elect Medicare A and B, then you have another decision to make, and that is for your supplement. Whether you're going to a traditional Medigap plan, which are all the letters that we hear about, F, G, K, N, and a standalone drug card, or the Advantage plan, a Medicare Advantage plan. And these are all those ads that you're seeing, low premiums, including dental, vision, hearing, all the shiny bells and whistles. You're entitled to the same coverage, but they're vastly different in how you pay for them. So again, when we can look at that overall retirement plan, it can guide us to know what we expect out of coverage and what we're comfortable paying for it.
And I think it's interesting that you mentioned zip codes, because I think you have this conversation probably more frequently than what a lot of people have, because people go to work and they'll talk about what their coverage costs them, and they'll go out and find out, or what their coworkers' coverage costs them, they'll go look at what their coverage costs, and it's different.
Vastly different. We, just within the counties in Iowa, Marion and Mahaska, I mean, we've seen hundreds, if not $1,000 difference in the cost of plans available within those two counties.
And we're talking about when you go out on the open market or within?
This is within the open market under age 65.
Okay, so lots of Medicare information out there. While we're on this, what are some of the things that people maybe get as information that you really want to make sure is cleared up now that you're sitting here talking about all of these decisions?
Probably the most common misconception is that if you are still working, turning age 65, or your spouses, you do not have to elect Medicare. You will not receive a penalty. When you do go to retire later on, or your spouse goes to retire later on, there's just one extra form to complete that you would submit to bypass that penalty.
So that if you're working, you don't need to select Medicare. In what type of situation might somebody want to work who has qualified group coverage and still select potentially Medicare Part A? If
you're still working and you're paying an exorbitant amount for your premium, your employer's not subsidizing that much, and there's a large out-of-pocket maximum, it's probably a really good idea to look at Medicare and what your cost could be and see if that's where your savings would take place.
So when I look at these decisions, I'm trying to imagine, this is me, I'm getting close to Medicare. It does feel overwhelming, but I know you've been doing this for a while. You do have a process by which you take their specific situation, their specific needs, and kind of help them make this decision, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a part of our process. In fact, the couple we mentioned earlier, right after that, we knew they were going to retire. That's when we started discussing what the Medicare options are and what that process looks like.
Yeah, and it's all integrated. So I sat down with the couple and was working through the financial component components of it. And then you sat down with them, was working through the Medicare and the healthcare components of it, and it all needs to work together. And you and I were talking prior to that visit to say, what are they going to do with this? What's their income going to look like? What's the premiums going to look like, to make sure we were all synced together on behalf of this one family, to make sure there weren't any missing components or surprises that could come in later.
And to talk about the surprise factor, IRMA is always a surprise factor. But that is such a shock. It's not talked about that much. And IRMA is your income-related monthly adjustment amount. That's where, when you do go to elect Medicare, they do that 2-year look back. And for the higher income earners, it's another way to tax, and you could have an escalated premium at that point. So we talked through that as well.
Yeah, and you gave us a lot of good Medicare details, but the financial part, we're kind of talking in broad strokes. But a lot of people are going, okay, well, what did you do? Or how did you get them to that retirement income plan? I think a good way to see exactly what your process looks like as you and the retirement planners help people do that is our Journey to Retirement workshop.
Yeah, in our Journey to Retirement workshop, we take you through a hypothetical couple's experience. So John and Sue, in this couple we were talking about, their names weren't John and Sue, but they could be John and Sue, because what they were really focused on is, well, where am I going to get the income from when I actually do retire? If they retire on this date, where's that income going to come from? And then how is that going to impact income down the road? Part of where is the income going to come from is Social Security. Do they take Social Security now? Does one of them take it now? One of them take it later? What are all those options? So in the Journey to Retirement workshop, we take you through John and Sue's experience, and we will highlight specific Social Security options that John and Sue have. They have up to 81 different options, and we'll show you the difference between if they elect this strategy, Social Security-wise, how much they could expect over the course of their lifetime, versus if they elect another strategy. And I can tell you the difference between this strategy and this strategy is over $80,000 a lifetime benefit. So it's extremely meaningful to John and Sue, which is also why you understand the importance to you as you're trying to figure out the last final components to enable you to make that leap to retirement and really maximize all the resources that you have.
To get more information on our Journey to Retirement workshop and sign up to see what this all looks like, you can go to the website that you're seeing on your screen right now. There's a QR code there too. You can grab your phone, get your camera open, and hover over that QR code to go to the workshop, see a time and a date that works for you, and then you can get started learning about what putting a retirement plan together looks like. But we're talking about the 60s. You mentioned Social Security, a lot of options for people. We want to really dive into this decision next.
Retirement is all about staying active and spending time with loved ones. But you may still wonder if you can have the retirement you've dreamed of. Download our complimentary Retire Your Way toolkit to receive a copy of Loren Merkle's new book, Retire Your Way, and 5 guides that'll help you turn your retirement worries into confidence. Go to retireyourwaytoolkit.com. Don't just dream about retirement. Take action and retire your way.
Okay, we're talking about retiring in your 60s, the decade of decisions. I got it right that time. The decade of decisions.
You're the one that named it, so I was a little surprised you got it off the last time.
Yeah, I've got it. But one of the big decisions, Loren, Social Security. I've heard you say it. You've said it. A married couple could have 81 options when it comes to electing security.
Up to 81 options, and that's kind of the fun around identifying what's the best strategy when it comes to Social Security. Some people would look at that and say, 81 different options, you gotta be kidding me, let's not touch that. We look at that and say, wow, that's opportunity. That's opportunity to really maximize your Social Security decisions. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna give you a snippet of what we talk about in our Journey to Retirement workshop. And we're going to talk about it through the lens of John and Sue. So John and Sue are a married couple. They have up to 81 different options when it comes to electing their Social Security benefits. In this example, we're going to show you 2 of the options of the 81 that John and Sue have as far as electing their benefits. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add up their monthly amounts that they're going to receive over the course of their projected retirement and give us some lifetime total of what that Social Security income could look like for them over the course of their retirement. So in this example, we're going to say they both elect their benefits at the age of 65. You can see what John's Social Security benefit is as well as what Sue's Social Security benefit is. If we add up those monthly payments over the course of their lifetime, it's going to equate to about $950,000 of lifetime benefit. Now, what if John and Sue don't elect this option? They're a little bit more intentional, a little bit more strategic, and they analyze all the different options that they have. And in fact, Sue waits until her full retirement age, which is age 66 and a half. John defers his benefits all the way up until age 70, takes advantage of the 8% increase per year from full retirement age all the way up to 70. His benefit is now grown to $32.51 a month. And then Sue receives about $1,000 a month. And over the course of her lifetime, she will also get a spousal benefit equating to a total lifetime income of over $1 million for John and Sue. So if we take the difference between strategy number one, strategy number two, it's about an $80,000 difference. How meaningful. What a big impact that makes to John and Sue as they're trying to squeeze every last dime out of all of their retirement benefits. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're sitting on the couch. Maybe you're saying, I'm not married. I can't relate to that. I'm going into retirement single. So what we'll do is we'll show you an example of what if John is single. He's age 63. He takes his Social Security benefits. He's receiving $22.86 a month. If we add up that monthly total, the benefit over the course of his projected retirement, it will equate to just under $500,000 of lifetime benefit. What if he doesn't take it at 63? In fact, he defers all the way up until age 68. The lifetime total with that strategy is $514,000. So not as big of a difference as a married couple, but still $20,000 difference between those strategies can be really meaningful, especially if you're single, dependent upon one income over the course of your retirement. So no matter whether you're married or you're single, you have a lot of options when it comes to your Social Security benefits. And it's really important when we are evaluating Social Security options that we don't just look at Social Security. So in the Journey to Retirement workshop, we do look at John and Sue's Social Security options, but then we mix that in with all the other strategies and resources that they have available to them to identify which of those options is in fact going to be the best for them.
Because I think the takeaway for some people watching Loren could be, oh, Loren's saying I should wait. But that's based on a lot of other factors when to elect.
There's a lot of factors that go into when you should take. Life expectancy, your health status, the income sources, other income sources you have, whether you have a pension available to you, how much investable assets do you have. There's a lot of factors that go into it. So in fact, we showed an example with John and Sue, with John waiting until 70. A lot of people, that's not their example, or that's not their best strategy. And this is where the customization really comes into play, because sometimes we'll get feedback and say, well, my sister did it this way. So, and she's telling me I need to do it this. Well, it might be right for your sister or not. It might be right for you or not. Let's identify the right strategy for you so you have more confidence when you do have to make these permanent decisions.
And one other thought I had while I was watching you do that example, are people surprised when they see that Social Security can add up to over $1 million? I mean, because I think we think about being a millionaire or $1 million in your portfolio as being this unattainable or a large amount of money, but did sometimes people not think of it as that much?
Yeah, I think that's one of the big surprises, part of the surprise of the Journey to Retirement workshop, when we total up the lifetime value of what Social Security could be. Even if you have a big portfolio, if your investment portfolio is $5 million, but you can get $1 million over the course of your lifetime, well, that's 20% of your starting retirement investment. That's a huge deal. And you have paid into Social Security for 30 years, 40 years. You didn't have a choice to do that. You had to do it. Now it's time to get a return on your investment and get the biggest return on your investment that you can.
Okay, so what about Medicare? You don't necessarily, you do have to elect Medicare when you elect Social Security? How does it work?
So if you elect Social Security before turning age 65, as you approach age 65, you will actually automatically be enrolled in Medicare. They're making the assumption that since you are receiving a benefit, you're already retired, so we're going to go ahead and enroll you in Medicare A and B. And they send that card out pretty early. I've seen it as far as 8 months in advance. Now, if you don't want to elect Medicare, you still don't have to. If you are on a spouse's employer health plan, when you do receive your Medicare card in the mail, you do have an option on the back of your card to deny it, check the box, and send it right back in.
A lot of times, does it make more sense to stay on a spouse's plan, or again, is that very
Again,
situational?
yeah, it is. It is. We do a cost analysis. We can show you where your savings are, what you're comfortable with. It determines on a lot of those factors that are built into the plan already.
Yeah, it's just not about cost either, right? Let's compare what kind of coverage you would receive with option A. What does that cost for that coverage? Option B, here's your coverage, here's your cost, and then once you have all those details, it becomes much simpler.
A lot of comparing, a lot of decisions, a lot of numbers as well.
And a lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun.
I like it. He said something fun about these 81 options.
Yeah.
And maybe you can see the fun, maybe you can feel the fun, maybe you're thinking about your retirement. That's the fun part for me. But a lot of fun would be to learn what's ahead of you, right? To see what's coming up as you move to and through retirement, whether you're in your 50s, your 60s, or your 70s. So a great place to do that is our Journey to Retirement online workshop. Check out the screen right now. There's a website, there's a QR code. You know how to use that. Grab your phone, open up the camera, hover right over that. You'll be sent right to a spot where you can choose a date and a time that works for you. Then you'll be signed up for our online Journey to Retirement workshop. But this is fun. You'll get a kit in the mail as well. That kit is going to include our Journey to Retirement workbook, so you can open that up, follow along, take notes, really dive into some of this stuff. And then you also get some other fun stuff that gets you excited about retirement. And like you said, this is exciting. This is a fun couple of hours of your life.
Yeah, how much more fun could it be to receive some of the most meaningful information that you've probably received over the last decade about one of the most important transitional phases of your life? Thinking about a 20 to 30 year retirement, and you consume this information in the comfort of your own home, probably on your couch, relaxing, taking in the information to really make a meaningful impact on your retirement.
Our retirement is fun, and we have a lot of fun on this show. It's Retiring Today, and we thank you for watching.
Biking, boating, relaxation? What's your retirement vision? Learn how to take the money you've worked so hard to save and turn it into the retirement of your dreams during our Journey to Retirement workshop. Like getting ready for a trip, getting to and through retirement takes a roadmap. This workshop is the first step to planning your 20 or 30-year vacation. Go to retirewithmerkle.com to register for our Journey to Retirement workshop this week.